About 100 miles from here, there is a second bunker. It houses a quantum computer that can stop all of this. In fact, it already has. Go save the world, Agent Collins.
What makes you think I'll do any of this?
I believe you already have.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 8 weeks, we finally got some answers to our big questions throughout this season. But the biggest question is, was this a satisfying finale? We are back breaking down this 8th and final episode of season 2 of Paradise, where we find out the most information we've gotten about Alex. We mightn't have gotten the answer to if Dylan is really Sinatra's son. And we find out that there has been a second bunker this whole time. Boy, we got a lot to discuss. Full spoilers ahead. Now, before we get into the actual breakdown, full transparency, it is literally 1:44 a.m. on March 30th as I'm recording this. So I'm gonna let y'all know right now, your boy is on one. I set my day around this to, I didn't take a nap because John Berthal does not believe in naps and I don't believe in naps neither, but I didn't take a nap, but I did kind of sleep in a little bit this morning in preparation to watch this finale and give you all this breakdown as soon as possible. So what we're going to get with this video is a kind of unfiltered, raw, Eddie Murphy style type of breakdown where I'm going to be very honest. What worked, what didn't work, thoughts, theories, predictions. We're going to break it all down. So this will be a fun time. Again, it is 1:44 a.m. Your boy's locked in. We're going to break it down. Let's have some fun and get into this episode. Now, before we get into the actual breakdown, I will say up top, as someone that watches a lot of television, I've seen my fair share of finales. One thing about TV shows is I think the two most important things that make a good show is a great pilot episode and a great finale. When it comes to the show Paradise, which I do love, I would say that this show has two great premiere episodes, whether it was season 1 with the pilot, but also the opening to this season with Meeting Annie and kind of subverting expectations. But then when it comes to the finales, I wasn't the fan. If you have been following my channel, I wasn't a big fan of the season 1 finale. That whole Trent thing just sent me up the wall. I wasn't a fan. But this finale, this is going to be a therapy session. I'm going to be your doctor tonight or wherever, what time you're listening to this. We're going to break it down. You're going to hear some ups and downs from me in this video and this breakdown. But I would say off the top, I like this finale a lot better than the first finale from season 1. But man, it still has some issues. Let's talk about these issues. But first, let's talk about the opening scene. We flash back to 9 years earlier at Caltech, where we find Henry teaching a class talking about quantum error correction. And it's here we also find a young Dylan, which he goes by that name. So I guess we can throw out the is he really Dylan theory as regards to if that's his real name. It really is his name, as he interrupts the class and wonders why Henry doesn't just build what he's teaching. Now, Henry makes a remark about how expensive it would be to create what they're discussing, but Dylan shows him that he's built something that can trap atoms and he's tested it on a smaller scale of quantum LDPC codes, and he gave it a brain and it can predict anything that can go wrong in the future in microseconds. As Dylan says, this is the first AI-controlled quantum computer that has ever been developed. Henry immediately ends the class and takes Dylan to his house. We see Henry talking about getting grants and private seed money to get this project started, and he also wants to be the face of the project because no one will probably believe in a young kid capable of these things. But it's also in this scene that we see Dylan being introduced to his wife, Alex. From here, we get this montage of them working, but more importantly, them building a relationship between Dylan, Alex, and Henry, and it all begins here. So I will say, just to take a quick little break from the recap here, one of the things about the Dylan is it actually Sinatra's son. Alex has the capabilities, potentially, of creating anomalies. So my question is, Dylan was Dylan before Alex was created, so do we attest to Dylan being created by Alex by some type of time manipulation, something that happens in the future that creates the past? Did Dylan create himself by creating the machine that created him? More on that a little bit later. Now we cut to Henry meeting with Sinatra for the very first time, and she's brought her science advisor by the name of Chase with her. Now we all made this connection weeks ago, but it's official now as Henry introduces this groundbreaking technology as Alex, of course being named after his wife. Now, it is also here that we get another one of our long-running theories confirmed in this scene, as Sinatra says that she's here to see if this AI can be used to help her in her mission in solving the climate crisis before it becomes a catastrophe. Again, I think we've all knew about Alex and where the name came from, as well as this being a machine that can prevent catastrophe. So right now, a lot of us, including myself, are feeling pretty good about ourselves, giving ourselves a pat on the back. But as I digress, remember that seed money that Henry spoke of? Well, Sinatra hands him a blank check and tells him to build a fast computer. Sky's the limit as far as the funds go for this project. Now, more time passes and we get a look of concern on Henry's face as he eventually tells Sinatra that Alex, it must be shut down. He explains to her that Alex is trying to do something very dangerous, a fear, by the way, that we all have in our real world with the way we've been using AI. But again, as I digress, again, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. We're going to have fun tonight, y'all. But take another shot at home, because yet another theory we've been talking about collectively as a community. We have been talking about this for weeks, and yet another theory is confirmed here, as Henry says that Alex is trying to manipulate time. Ding, ding, ding. Time travel's confirmed. No, time travel's not confirmed, but time manipulation, we have been talking about weeks for this. I mean, I go all the way back to episode 2, I want to say, where we start talking about time manipulation with Xavier's memories and time lapsing. So again, take a shot at home for every single theory we have gotten correct so far. Now, initially, Sinatra kind of laughs this off, but no, he's being serious, just as serious as Sinatra saying that someone needs a breath mint. Now, despite the importance of why she needs this to basically save the world, Henry stands his ground and doubles down on his stance that Alex has to be shut down, and he mentions that Alex gave him an answer to an equation in less than 10 seconds. And the crazy thing about this is the way she gave him the answer, it was quicker than any supercomputer can do in the entire universe to solve this. But then the actual interesting part about this is he hadn't even asked Alex the question yet. So that just confirms that Alex, again, has a mind of its own. Again, we know that this was built to have its own brain, to predict things from happening. But he just said this machine had a question or an answer for a question that wasn't even given to it. And it's something that no supercomputer in the world can figure out. So we know that we are dealing with something almost unworldly at this point. Now, before moving on, I love this beginning because I love a show that just gives us answers. We don't have to wait the entire finale to get the answers we've been sitting on, which right now it's been confirmed. We know where the name of Alex comes from. We can understand to a certain extent the capabilities of Alex, which is manipulating time, but also predicting the future. So that's been something that's been confirmed. And we also know why Henry wanted it to be shut down, because it's something that can't be controlled. Now, my question for you all in the comments is, and this is more of a moral question, what position are you taking in this situation? Are you more on Henry's side, where we shouldn't play with this godlike technology, even though it's maybe can help us save the world? Or are you in Sinatra's boat? You take a leap of faith and you put all your eggs in a basket and you put it into this technology and hope that it saves the world and doesn't take over the world in the process. Which side of the coin are you on? Now, flash forward to the final moments of last week as Sinatra walks up to this souped up version of Alex that has had her modifications and her scientist modifications on it over the years, as she tells her science advisor Chase that she saw more of the unknown things from Alex, and that being her son Dylan. He tells her that it's probably unlikely because it hasn't even been activated yet, but Sinatra insists that it is her son, Dylan. See, Dr. Chase tells her that Alex has been communicating with them over the last few weeks, and he's been kind of keeping this to himself because he didn't know what to think of it. But we see that Alex has been making predictions that actually have started to come true. Now, those predictions include thunderstorms. We also hear that it predicted earthquakes, even Sinatra's current arrival, and she's actually prepared a gift for her as well. Now, this gift is going to be very important for season 3. It's a card with right now some very unknown numbers. And as we know at this point in the episode, it has an unknown user that it's addressed to. More on that a little bit later. But this person is meant to activate it. But it won't matter for Sinatra because Alex has predicted by the end of the day, Sinatra will be dead. Now on the train, we see Xavier experimenting another future memory of him and Dylan before almost arriving to the bunker, where they are aware that the larger crew will soon make their move on the bunker as well. Now after seeing that they've got Tanks, Xavier, and Mama, who refuses to stay behind Terry, will join X in entering the bunker to see their kids. Meanwhile, we see Dakota tells them that while they're looking for their kids, she's going to take care of their white kids, the baby and Bean. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, what do we think about Bean? He had nothing to do with the finale. I know some people were speculating that Bean could be Cal, he could be Dylan. I mean, of course, he's going to be in season 3, but as of right now, Bean just seems to be Bean, and we'll talk about baby Annie a little bit later. Now back inside the bunker, we find Gabby still in disbelief over quote-unquote killing Jane, who very much looks to be dead in the background for now. Now, the bunker lights cut in and out as she gets a message that Sinatra is missing and to come to the tower immediately. Meanwhile, we see Presley trying to reach James, but the call drops as Gabby learns that the doors of the bunker will be opening as the tanks are now at the front door. Now, they shoot down the cameras and the idea of activating their evacuation protocol, which goes by the name of Exodus, is brought up. But Gabby, who's taking control of the situation right now, tells them just to open the doors and they're not gonna set up the plan for Exodus quite yet. Meanwhile, we say goodbye to a character, and that is Anders, as he sees everything that he's built and the empire that Cal spoke of last week is coming to an end as an explosion happens, and we say goodbye to Anders. You know, we say goodbye to Anders, but honestly, it didn't really do anything for me, his death, because we didn't really spend that much time with the character, but in the writing room, I can see how the character kind of went out on a high note because he kind of atoned for his sins, which goes back to the creation of the bunker. But RIP to Anders for those that are Anders fans. But as we move on, back at the tower, Gabby takes a breath and she takes in all of the disaster going on, and she realizes that she has to make the best move for the people of the bunker as she activates the planned Exodus. Now, throughout the bunker, the community sees and hears the immediate alerts to evacuate the bunker. We see Robinson, who has a bad injury, and Jeremy and Presley and Hanley are all in serious danger in the current positions that they find themselves in. Now, Sinatra is caught up to speed by Gabby about the whole situation, including killing Jane, as Sinatra clears the room of everyone and assures Gabby that she'll take care of everything as she takes the card from Alex out of her pocket. Now, Sinatra calls Dr. Chase with instructions to taking Alex to an island 100 miles away in order to protecting her at all costs. Now, I do have a quick question. Are we to assume that Alex was maybe in the second bunker this whole time? Because we saw the tunnels that Sinatra went through, and we'll talk about the importance of those tunnels and how they connect to the conspiracy theory of the Denver airport. But I am curious to know if Sinatra put the Alex machine in this second bunker, but then this island that she's talking about is 100 miles from the bunker. I'm really interested to know the geographical situation going on there, and if Alex was in this second bunker when she was going underground throughout these last 2 episodes. Now at their home, and while Xavier looks for the kids, we get this kind of nice moment where Terry sees all the time that has passed by the height that they've measured on the wall. Now in the middle of the chaos, they do eventually find James, and another little beautiful moment, a little family reunion. But this family isn't whole yet, as Xavier tells them to leave to safety while he goes to look for their daughter. Now, Sinatra finds Dylan on the camera and she smiles, but in comes Xavier with a gun in his hand. And look, a little deja vu moment going here because this almost mirrors the exact same, well, not the exact same, but as far as the gun being held against her reminded me a lot of the season 1 finale where he came into her office with a gun on her. Now, Sinatra asks if he found his wife, but there's no time for games or to play nice as he instructs her to find his daughter. Now, she finds his daughter, but in the same time, she sees that her daughter is stuck in the elevator with Presley, and for the first time that I can think of, we see Xavier and her have to actually work together because she has access to where they need to go, and it's on her wristband, and she can't just simply take it off because it won't work. Now, inside the elevator, we see Sinatra telling Xavier that she's actually happy to see him and he's alive and safe, because something to remember for us as the audience, this is the first time that these characters are seeing each other since the season 1 finale. Now, she shares with him that she believes that she's seen her dead son Dylan, but she also acknowledges that the grief may have gotten the best of her because there's the obvious possibility that there is another Dylan out there with the same name, with the same birthday as her son. But again, she insists that that is her Dylan. Now, back with Robertson and Jeremy, her injuries slow her down, but he refuses to leave her behind. Now, in order for him to leave her, she points a gun on him and tells him that she loved his dad and that his dad loved her, and it's just time for him to leave. Now, alone and thinking that she's about to die in this moment, Jeremy actually went back to get help out of nowhere, mind you, as they end up saving Robertson. Now, we don't get too much from any of these characters moving forward. Well, a little bit later, Jeremy has a little bit of reunion of his own, but this is the disappointing stuff of this finale for me. And honestly, this is one of the most disappointing storylines throughout this season. And that was Jeremy and Robertson. I don't really know what to show. I don't think the show knew what to do with Robertson. Obviously, we know her to be a character from season 1 that was very much a belief into the system, into the CIA, into what she was doing and being, head in charge of security. And she was very much by the book. And obviously, she kind of got off that track once her boyfriend, side piece, President Cal died. So she was a really interesting character for me in season 1. But when it comes to this season, again, I just don't feel like the show had a grip on what did they want to do with her, because she kind of, I want to say regressed. I think she regressed as a character because there was really no arc. There was really no, besides taking care of Jeremy, making sure he's okay because of her love with Cal. That didn't really move the needle with me, so I wasn't too fond of what they did with Robertson. No disrespect to the actress. I thought she did the best with the material she got, but I thought the material just wasn't that great. And then the Jeremy of it all, I talked about this a couple episodes ago. I get on paper the idea of him moving forward with the resistance in honor of his father and to do his last promise to his dad, which was to help the people. And I get all that. It's just the execution of Jeremy wasn't that interesting. And I talked about it as well before. We never have seen the perspective of the people, the bunker people, as far as the resistance of like their needs and wants to get out to get the answers if their family and friends are still alive. Like, I never felt that sense of urgency from Jeremy's plot. So again, as I kind of move forward, Jeremy, Robertson, nothing against the actors. I just feel like what they were given wasn't that good. Now, Dylan and the others find the brains of the system, and Xavier and Sinatra find their kids at the same time, but her access wristbands aren't working. Now, Geithner tries to buy them some time, but unfortunately he dies in the process. R.I.P. to Geithner. This is our second character that died in this finale, one being Anders and the next one being him. Now, the elevator drops and the girls have to climb out by the hatch, but they need help with the doors, and as fate would have it, in comes Dylan and crew arrive and help them just in time. Now, I'm going to be honest with you all. I was thinking to myself, Dylan came to help. Presley and Hanley had to get out of the hatch, and I'm like, dude, they about to let this white girl be saved by the black girls, and Presley was going to die in the situation. Luckily, that did not happen, but that's where my mind was at. I'm like, damn, she about to let her out first, and then the elevator's going to drop down, and Xavier's going to have to watch his daughter die, and then he's going to have to bring her back with a time machine. That's where my head was at. Again, it's 2:12 in the morning as I'm saying this, but I'm just letting you all know where I was in that moment. But luckily, everyone was safe. We see Dylan and his crew, again, help them out. They save them just in time as the elevator actually drops. Now, they get the girls to safety, but as X realizes this at the same time that this is the guy from his memories, and he starts to see the memory. While that's happening, Dylan pulls a gun on Sinatra, and she says that Alex is actually working in this moment. She goes on to tell him that he's her son, and Dylan is about to pull the trigger, but X gets in front of her, which is crazy in my mind. Like, Xavier, after all the stuff this woman has put you and your family through, you gonna take a bullet for her? Anyway, Dylan gets hit with the same memory. Their nose starts to bleed, and he tells him about Annie and what happened to Annie. I'm not going to lie. Whenever I hear the word Annie now, I just like get a little tear in the corner of my eye because I thought that was just such a beautiful story. But he tells her that she died and she died because she was giving birth to her daughter again. It kind of hit me. I think the best episode of this season was episode 4. And that moment kind of got to me, just thinking that he wasn't able to see Annie and now he has his daughter. And it was an emotional moment for me because, again, how much I love the character Annie. But I want to talk about this now. Sinatra is so confident that this is her son that I'm starting to get confidence that this is her son. But again, my mind goes to Terminator and the idea that Dylan was the creator of himself because he created the brains of the operation that can manipulate time. So in essence, he kind of set himself on his path of being created with this Alex technology. I am going to just put my name in the hat that when it comes to season 3, that it will be revealed that somehow, some way, with the technology of Alex, that Dylan, Sinatra's Dylan, is the Dylan that we're seeing in this show. I'm going to put my name on that theory, and I'm going to go ahead and manifest it for a season 3 reveal. But before moving on, I need to know, what do you all think about Dylan? Do you all think that Dylan thinks or maybe even knows that Sinatra is his mom? As we move forward, they finally get to the truck together and they head towards the tower to close the doors to prevent the nuclear kickback from spreading outside. Now, the continuation of Xavier and Sinatra happens as they go to the tower together, but before leaving, Sinatra tells her daughter that she's going to make things right, and as she's getting out of the truck, she looks at her son, Dylan, and tells him, "I will see you again soon, and that everything will be okay again." She seems so confident. The stuff she's saying makes me feel as though we'll talk about, obviously, what we think is going to happen to Sinatra, but I don't think Sinatra's dead. I think everything she's saying is happening because it's going to happen in season 3. She will see her son again. She does see her son again, but we'll talk about that when we get to that point in the video. Now, Dylan asks what's Paisley's father's name. She says, "Oh, we call him X, Xavier," and he screams out his name X. And when he says X, this reminds Sinatra of the message from Alex, which, going back to what we talked about up top, the username was X. So the message wasn't for Sinatra. Well, it was for Sinatra to give the card to the actual user to activate it, which is going to be Xavier. Now, they have both arrived to the tower doors, and Sinatra will stay behind with the bunker as it will go down. But before they go inside, she gives X the card, and at the moment, we don't hear her final words to him, but she gives him the card, she locks herself inside, and tells X goodbye. Now, honestly, I don't know why Xavier went with Sinatra to begin with to the towers, because it didn't need 2 people to do what needed to be done, but good thing he went, because obviously he got the message from Alex, but we get to see him running out of the bunker like Tom Cruise in a Mission Impossible movie. Speaking of Mission Impossible, ladies and gentlemen, guess who's not dead? As we cut to Gabby's house where Jane's body is missing, it is confirmed that James is Michael goddamn Myers. No, in all seriousness, I think we all kind of speculated that, that's too easy. I even said that. I'm like, it's kind of a disappointing ending after we just got her backstory and found out where she came from and her CIA programming and Stacy. I'm like, how you going to kill the character after all that? So she is gone. So my question is, did she wake up on her own accords and just got in someone's truck and escaped the bunker? Or did someone save her? Like, what's the pot? Who would have saved her at that point, right? Is Billy Boy still alive? No, but in all seriousness, I am glad. I know everyone hates Jane, but she's a character you need in the show. You need these type of characters, the characters you love to hate. Cersei, that's the first thing that came to mind. Joffrey and all the people in Game of Thrones, all the great shows. You need a character like Jane to sustain the unpredictability. You need people that you don't know what they're going to do. So I'm glad that Jane's not dead, and I'm really interested to see what they do with her in season 3. Now, while we're left wondering if X made it out alive, we see Sinatra walks around the bunker and watch everything she built just falling apart around her, which is a really cool symbolism as that's kind of going on. And we know this is a different side of Sinatra that we're seeing right now. This is Sam that we're seeing. This is Samantha that we see in this moment as everything's falling apart around her. She goes to one of the horses. As we know, she had these horses built in a bunker because it was something that reminded her of Dylan. Which, speaking of Dylan, remember she said, "I'll see you again soon." We see a little hand holding her hand, and we watch Dylan and his mom, Samantha, walk away together as the bunker, as we see, is being destroyed from the outside. So let's talk about that scene there. Let's speculate, let's theorize, let's make some fun conversations. Little Dylan. Was that an actual manifestation of Little Dylan? I don't think so, but I'm just, playing devil's advocate. I think that was her having a moment of euphoria, having a moment of like kind of stepping up out of body experience, her accepting that her son had died in an extent. I'm cut from a different cloth. If we don't see a dead body, that means that person is not dead. Something tells me that Sinatra will be back in season 3. Now, will it be the Sinatra that we saw at the end of this episode? I don't know. Maybe it's another parallel version. Maybe Alex with the reconfiguration of time manipulation can bring her back with a different version of Dylan. I'm just putting that out there. If Jane can be stabbed in the back and survive, and if little Dylan can somehow be an adult Dylan, I think that is a strong possibility that we haven't seen the last of Sinatra. Matter of fact, I will put money on it that we haven't seen the last of Julianne Nicholson as Sinatra. She will be back in season 3. I'm going to the bank with that prediction. Now it is nighttime and we get the confirmation that Xavier did make it out of the bunker. Of course he did. They're not going to kill their main character in the finale, y'all. But he is reunited with his family and it is a nice moment. But goddamn it, Presley, why'd you have to ruin the moment? She don't give two damns about her mama, her daddy, her little brother being reunited. She only cares about Jeremy as they share a kiss in front of, and this was a funny moment. They're sharing a kiss and Xavier's like, all right, now that's enough of the smooching in front of the parents there. But oh boy, my favorite moment of the episode, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of awkward, Gabriella finds Xavier, and this is their first time talking all season. And she says that she's happy that he's back, and everything's all good and dandy until Terry walks up and he introduces his baby mama, his wifey, his best friend and soulmate to the little side piece that he hid in season 1, y'all. I'm like, oh boy. This is interesting. How does this gonna go? Again, this is my favorite part of the episode because I can't wait for that conversation to happen. If it happens in season 3. No, in all seriousness, I am really interested to see this dynamic moving forward because it will get awkward and I'm here for the drama. Now we see Xavier checks on Dylan as he has his daughter and we get another little, again, I don't think I can move forward in life without getting a little teary-eyed when I hear the name Annie. He decides to name the baby, little baby Annie, by the name of her mom, which is Annie. Now we cut to what actually Sinatra told X, and she said verbatim that he is the user that the message Alex was referring to, and she gives some instructions that there is a second bunker where he'll be able to find Alex underneath the airport, which we'll talk about the importance of the airport towards the end, but a very big moment there as she basically says that you have to save the world. And listen, Xavier, he makes some mistakes, right? He trusted Gary. He's done some silly things, but I trust Xavier to save the world. So that's a good call by Alex, but also Sinatra. And also, I would assume, because we don't see the memory being played out, that the future memory with Xavier and Link will be fully fulfilled and seen in season 3. So that is the scene that I anticipate us seeing in the future. Now, she also goes on to say that Alex can stop all of this and has already stopped it all, but he just needs to find it and again, save the world. So what does she just say? That it's already stopped some things already? Again, y'all, I think even though it hasn't been activated, I don't think it needs to be activated if we're being honest. I think that there is some way, somehow, that if we're thinking about time and how time works, yes, in the current situation, the current timeline, what we see and transpired in this episode, that technically Alex hasn't been activated, but there's been so much spoken future tense terminologies that makes me believe that in season 3 at some point, Dylan turn on Alex, and we're seeing events right now being played out because of that. So again, I think Sinatra's thinking ahead that you're going to succeed, you're going to find Alex, you're going to activate it, and things will go in reverse, meaning the world can be saved, meaning that Sinatra can be saved, Billy can be saved, maybe Cal. Like, I think, because this show is very much like a happy-go-lucky, everyone survives type of scenario, I think season finale, and we're talking a year from now, I think in the finale next year, we're going to see a lot of our characters back from the dead because of the time manipulation. And personally, I'm not always a fan of like resurrecting characters for the sake of whatever MacGuffin can do that, because I feel like it takes away from the weight of certain deaths and certain reveals and whatnot, but it all boils down to execution. So listen, I could be wrong, but I feel like that's how they're going to end the story, because this is a very Dan Fogelman is very much, if you've ever watched This Is Us, yeah, there's tragic things, but there's a lot more heart, there's a lot more hope, there's a lot more inspiring things that happen in his type of narrative. So I think that's how they're going to wrap things up. But again, we'll find out next year. Now, I will also say, I think our confirmation of explaining the nosebleeds between Xavier, Dylan, Sam, and even Billy, it has to do with Alex, right? Like, it has to do with something in the point of time, important moments of time that dictate the future. Again, there's no confirmation of where the nosebleeds come from, but I am just putting it out there that it has to do with Alex and that these people are very integral into the future of this show and to what Alex can do. Now we cut to this bunker where we see the blue Mustang near the Denver airport as we cut underneath to find Alex opening up. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of season 2 of Paradise. Now, I wouldn't call myself like a master conspiracy theorist, but there have been some rabbit holes that I found myself in. And, this was years ago, by the way, but I have definitely learned a thing or two about the conspiracy theories surrounding the Denver airport. Now, for my true conspiracy theory fans out there, I don't need to tell y'all this, but for those that do not know, the Denver airport with the blue Mustang, which is also known as Lucifer, and also it's been said to be part of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. There is a reason why this show has made the airport the place where the bunker is and where Alex is, because it is just let's talk about it. So first and foremost, if you all do not know, the Denver airport is twice the size of Manhattan, which is insane. It's known to have these tunnels underground, which again, I think the tunnels were where we saw Sinatra going from one bunker to the next when we saw in this episode and last week's episode. But they literally have tunnels that were built in the construction. This is all available online, by the way, but it was like $2 billion over budget, and it's just insane. But they have all these tunnels that were built and buried during the construction. There are hidden underground infrastructures, and it is filled with some very strange paintings and symbolism all throughout this airport. Again, I went down this rabbit hole many years ago, but this is stuff that's just, I'm remembering. And I can't help, again, to think that this location is going to be so important in season 3, because one of the things about this airport is, again, the symbolism and all the murals and all the paintings. Some people believe that it has connections to the Illuminati. Now, I bring that up because, remember, I am in the camp that Cameron, remember the housemaid or the fake housemaid of Sinatra? I think she's a part of a secret group that we haven't met yet. I'm not saying it's an Illuminati group, but I do think there is some type of underground, pun intended, group that has been living in this bunker that may or may not have ties to a secret society, Freemasons, Illuminati, or what have you. But again, I don't think it's a coincidence that they chose to have the second bunker there. And I do believe that there have been people occupying this bunker that will probably be new characters, important characters of season 3. And they have been there this whole time. And that will be fun to explore when we get that new season coming next year. So let's talk about this finale. Again, I think it is a much better finale than season 1, because that Trent stuff, like, yes, we're dealing with time travel, potentially time manipulation, quantum physics. I buy into that more than I bought into Trent doing all the crazy stuff and killing Cal. Like, I was not a fan of that reveal, but this one had more better reveals, or it was executed better, in my opinion, very much from the very beginning of this episode. Again, the exposition of explaining that Alex has its own brain, it can predict the future, it can stop bad things from happening, to Alex manipulating time. Like, I thought it was great to get that off of the episode and giving us that information, because again, the second half and the majority of this episode was just reaction, running, escaping. Like, that stuff is, is thrilling, it's exciting, but that's not the stuff that gets me into the show. It's the characters, it's the integral details, it's the script, the narrative, the storytelling, the themes, the allegories that they tackle. Again, action's cool and all, but I'm not here for the action. I'm here for the characters. So that's where my issue comes in with a finale that's structured in the way that this show, or I should say this finale was structured, where it's just like we're seeing just chaos ensuing. And again, it's thrilling. I know for some people, they were on the edge of their seats. They were, locked in, and I was as well, but I'm just not as engaged with that element. Again, be clear, I love action, but that's not why I like this show. So that's why this finale was, I don't want to say a letdown, but it was slightly a little stale for me, because I'm just not as engaged. I just don't respond to those elements of this show, because that's not why I love this show. But then I was back on board how we wrapped the story up with Sinatra becoming an anti-hero. Again, I think she's coming back. Again, the Jane reveal, like that stuff to me was really interesting to kind of dangle the keys in front of us in regards to setting up seeds for season 3, which we'll probably make another theory video sometime later this week to dive deeper into more of my theories of season 3 and hearing your theories of season 3. But right now, in my mind, there's a reason it shows a different import. I think that would be very important to who's been in this second bunker. How long has this second bunker been occupied potentially by a secret group, other people? Are they good? Are they bad? Are they somewhere between? Are they aliens? No, but I'm really excited to learn more about the second bunker. Obviously learning more about Alex, the activation, the card, X turning it on and off. What will that do? If him turn that on, will that mean that he'll lose someone in his family? Will he gain someone in his family? Will that bring back characters that were supposed to be gone? The Jane of it all, how is she going to play into season 3? Because obviously Robertson's alive, so when they come across each other, there's going to be some beef there. Is there a redemption story for Jane to be had? Again, I'm one to believe that Sinatra will be coming back because we need kind of a complicated character like Sinatra. She kind of made up for her sins in a way. I'm not completely forgetting about the explorers, but I think there's a lot to explore there in regards to new timeline, new situations. We have Link, of course, with Annie's baby. What will he want to do with Alex? What will his role be in this third season? So there's a lot of stuff to look forward to. And based on the timeline from season 1 and 2, I'm to believe, because they already announced that they've written the scripts for season 3 about a month ago. So I think we're going to be seeing season 3 around the same time we saw season 2, which is sometime early February, mid-February. And I think I read somewhere that the third season is the final season, which is unfortunate, but I much more prefer a show to end on a high, to end knowing where the end point is, where the end line is, versus like just keep going on and guessing where the story is going to go. So I almost forgot to bring this up, just my general thoughts about this season. I will say too, I preferred season 2's finale over season 1 finale, but I prefer season 1 over season 2 as a whole. Now, as far as season 2 is concerned, I thought it was a really solid season. How we start the season, like subverting our expectations, meeting Annie, meeting Link, that whole story. Again, I know some people didn't like it, but I really loved it from a performance standpoint, a storytelling. It was almost like its own little mini movie. So I'm team Annie over here. So I love the way the season started. Episode 2 has its moments, right? I thought it was going to be more important, but it was more or less to see Xavier adapting to being outside the bunker for the first time in 3 years, and how he almost died 50 times in that episode. But episode 3, going to the bunker, that worked for me. Episode 4, I think emotionally speaking, is probably the best episode of the season, with Annie's death and the holy charge. That really worked for me. I'm not the biggest fan of episode 5 with Gary because of how the conclusion of how his story wrapped up in episode 7. But I was a fan of episode 6 of Jane's backstory. I did like some parts of the penultimate episode, as we talked about last week. And then again, I thought the finale had its highs, but had, I wouldn't say lows, but some things I just didn't really care for. So overall, a solid season. Again, I don't think it matched the heights of the mystery, the intrigue, just the discovery of season 1. And again, I think season 1 has the best episode of this entire series, which is episode 7. But I just think and this is coming from a sci-fi lover, I just think the more grounded mystery, what's the bunker? How did they get there? What happened to Cal? Like, that story to me was just more of a linear, not straightforward because it had its mystery, but it was more of a, I don't want to say well thought out. Again, we're talking, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, but I just thought it was a more cohesive season of television, where this one, again, I love science fiction, but time travel, multiverses, multiple versions of characters, some of that stuff didn't like fully get fleshed out the way I thought it should have. And there was also, again, Gary's of the world, the Robinson storyline, Jeremy, Presley, like some of that stuff just didn't work for me. So again, solid season, but I think season 1 is just way more superior than this season was. I'm rambling at this point. Let's wrap this video up. With that being said, that will be the end of my breakdown, my yapping session of the season 2 finale of Paradise. Look, man, like I said, it is, as I'm recording this, it will be a shorter video than what it is right now, but I'm looking at about a 50-minute video. It is 2:35 a.m. on a Monday morning. I'm going to miss this show. I'm going to miss these conversations. Again, we're going to probably do another theory video later this week, but just focusing on being in the moment. I want to thank you all for welcoming me into this community, because if you don't know, I didn't watch this season when it was on TV last year. I had to catch up in preparation because everyone suggested the show, and I'm so glad I took you all suggesting because I love this show. And look, I'm not afraid to call out some of the flaws as we've done all season. Again, not every show is perfect, even the shows we love the best, but at the same time, I thought I spoke to the negatives in a way that made sense to me. I just didn't say, oh, this sucked because it sucked. Like, I gave my reasons why. But nonetheless, I want to take this time to thank you all again for welcoming me into this community. Again, it's 2:30 in the morning. Pardon my stumbling over the words, but thank you for allowing me to be a part of this community. Thank you all for engaging with these videos. We were making 2 videos a week with breakdowns that range from 20 to 35 minutes. We did theory videos that were 15 to 30 minutes. And you guys liked these videos. You shared the videos. You hyped them up. You commented. Like, that just, I've been doing this for a while now. And, we've been growing this community every year. And I'm so grateful for that. But there's certain shows where I'm just like, man, it's great to be a part of these shows, great to be a part of these communities, and Paradise is definitely one of them. So it's long-winded just to say thank you. I appreciate you all. Do me a favor and put in the comments right now, if you're still here watching or listening to this, put in the comments right now, #thank you. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, thank you. Do me a favor, please hit the like button, hit the hype button, because the hype button is a new feature on YouTube that allows this video to spread to new viewers, and I would love for new people to be on board, to join the community. But also the good old-fashioned share button goes a long way. But more importantly, again, we're going to probably do another video, so leave your theories and predictions for season 3, because we're going to probably make a giant season 3 prediction video. So please leave your theories in the comments. And if you all are having fun, you love the energy, you love this community, and you're just like, I don't know if I want to subscribe, like take the chance, man. Stick around, subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of things that we're covering on the show, on the channel to say, so I want you guys to be a part of the journey, because we are close to 100,000 subscribers, which is mind-blowing to me. But for those that are listening to this via podcast, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you all are getting your podcast from, I appreciate my podcast listeners out there. If you all can do me a favor, leave your thoughts on the episode in the comments, but also consider following the podcast and leaving me a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate it. Man, I'm not looking forward to the editing process of this, but I really want to thank you all again. I'm so hyped to have been a part of this journey, even though, again, I don't think the finale was perfect, but I thought it was much better than season 1. But we're going to end on this note. I thank you all. Remember to stay safe out there, to remember that you all are awesome, and we'll see you soon as we'll talk about season 3 in the coming days. But thank you all again, and I'll catch you on the next breakdown.